You are looking at probably the most popular beginner's lockpick set on the planet Earth. I bought this from lockpickshop.com for 28 bucks. And on the webpage it says they sold 50,000 of these things. And you know, I believe it. Everywhere I go, the guys that I work with, they've all had this particular set. And it's a pretty durable set. It is the SouthOrd PXS-14. But before we talk any more about that, let's announce the winner for the SouthOrd C801, the Euro pick set that we reviewed yesterday. There were a total of 2,000, let me get this right, 2,058 comments in a 24-hour period. And the winner is Jury Duty Summons. Pretty lucky, guy. 1 out of 2,000. Just the same odds as being picked for jury duty, I guess. Yeah, bad joke, I know. But you got an interesting comment. He says, one thing I'd love to see is a series on making your own picks. And I don't know if you guys have looked at the description lately, but I've been putting the playlists down there. And one of the playlists is Do It Yourself. And inside of there is a series of videos on how to make your own picks. So Jury Duty Summons, you and everybody else that agreed to that comment, take a look down there, and I hope that that answers your questions. All right, enough self-promotion. By the way, give me your PM, your address, and I'll get that in the mail to you. Let's talk about the PXS-14. All right, comes in this nice leather case, fully zippered. Inside of there are no compartments, except this little thin one here for your 4 tension wrenches. The rest of your picks just kind of get piled in there, but they do fit. In fact, it's about this same dimension, about a very thick wallet sized when everything is packed inside of there. So it does work. It's a nice little case. Looks like it'll last a while. One of the other oddities is the tension wrenches. Let me see if I can line these up just right. You get a total of 4 tension wrenches, and 3 of the 4 are the most common size for the most common locks, like master lock. They're the same width, thickness, same dimensions. The only difference on those 3 is one of them has that little flex and the others are just straight. I guess they do that because it is the most common and beginners are notoriously rough on tools. Maybe if you bend one or break one or lose one, you got extras. In case you work on smaller keyways, there's one small tension wrench, things like Brinks locks with those little bitty Yale-like keyways. You got a tension wrench for that as well. You get a double-ended tool, springing all over here, if I can grab it around the camera. Double-ended, you get a W-rake on one side, and I'll talk more about that in just a little while, and a half diamond on the other. So kind of a multi-purpose tool. You just carry, if you only carry one thing, I guess those would be some pretty good choices. And then we get to the picks. These are all the picks that you get. These are very sturdy picks. They're all solid stainless steel. They extend from the tip all the way to the back here. And then this rubber, it's actually a hard plastic. It slides on. The best way to get it on, if you want to use it, is to wet, like dip your pick into dishwashing solution, just a little bit of soap, and then slide this on and let it dry, and then you'll never get it off there. It is hard plastic. I like it because the sharp metal doesn't dig into your fingers of the hours that you spend practicing. Nice and rounded, and it does transfer the feel, all the vibrations, and you can feel all the picks fairly well through the hard plastic. If you try it and you don't like it, you just take a razor and cut it right off. No big deal. Very nice. Like I said, 24 thousandths thick, and you guys are gonna probably give me a hard time. It has a nice thick shaft, just like you want. Very durable, last you a long time. Yeah, we've all heard that. But this is a very durable tool. It will tolerate a lot of abuse that most beginner lockpickers give. I used to hold mine like this and just try to wedge, like lever those pins into place. This is thick enough that it will probably withstand an awful lot of abuse. You're going to get 2 hooks, standard hook, a deep hook. You're going to get a half diamond. You get a couple of ball picks, and I'll show you how to use these in a minute. These 2 ball picks, one of these is a convenience tool. For example, if you pick double-sided wafer locks, like the older American 500 series padlock, it has wafers on both sides. So if you stick it into the keyway and you begin raking, you can rake the upper pins, and then you can move directly to the lower pins. And you have to move back and forth. And by having the rounded ball on both sides, you don't have to keep turning your pick up, pull it out, turn it over, put it back in. So you just rake bottom, then the top without removing your tool. If you've got a very narrow keyway, like a wafer lock that's only one-sided, like desk drawers or filing cabinets, it's a smaller keyway. You need a smaller pick to get in there. Same type of lock, but you've only got to rake one side of it. And this would be the tool for that. Let me give you a quick demo. I had a lot of questions about how to use these things. Now, I don't have a wafer lock with me. I didn't drag my work desk, but I'll use this master lock. It is a pin tumbler, but the raking motion is really the same. I'll use the twisted tension tool, and you take it with the ball pointed up, and you simply slide it in, and you just begin raking the pins. And as long as you keep light tension, eventually, and this is not the ideal tool for this lock, but eventually you will get in, he says. There we go. We got an open. All right, as I said, that's not the ideal tool. This is a pin tumbler, not a wafer. So let's kind of focus on how these tools are used. This is a W rake, and this is not truly a rake. I mean, you can rake with it, but it's really designed to be a kinetic tool. You notice those very sharp angles on the top two peaks? And that's so when you yank this out of the keyway, those very sharp peaks will transfer the energy to the pins, causing them to bounce above the shear line. It's kind of like a poor man's bump key. So let's see if we can make that work. Again, we're going to put no tension on the lock, slide it all the way in, very light tension, and then just kind of yank it out. And that's how quick this zip tool can work. All right, let's take another look at another. Let's lock it back up. Let's take a look at another one of the rakes. This is an S rake, or some people call it a snake rake. And it's oriented like that with the big hump pointed up. And again, this works a lot like the wafer lock. You slide it in, very light tension. You just kind of rake it back and forth. And eventually, hopefully, you can get it to rake open. If it doesn't work, just recock it and just start again. And eventually you'll get an open on that as well. All right, let's lock it back up again and try my favorite pick almost of all time. This is the L rake, or the city rake, and this is a different technique. Now you noticed I'm using different techniques for all of these. I yanked that one out, I kind of raked that one back and forth, and this one I'm going to call rocking it back and forth. It is a pick, it's just a different technique, that's all. Not every pick works with every lock, so slide it in there, very light tension, and then we rock it up and down, and maybe even slide it in and out a little bit at the same time. And again, if it doesn't work, cock it, slide the pick back in there, and start doing it again. And then eventually you get an open. This pick, the L rake or the city rake, works great on master locks. I love it. It's usually the first tool I go to. Okay, enough messing around with that. The last tool, you guys have seen this before. I think I showed you an extractor. It looked like something you'd go hunting whales with. This one is actually nice. This is the correct dimensions. It's nice and thin. It's still the 24 thousandths, but it's got a nice sharp barb on the end of it, so if a piece of key or debris gets stuck in the keyway, this is actually small enough to fit down in there to pull that piece of junk out. So potentially very useful. I would keep it in this pick kit. And I've already talked about the double-ended. All right, that's the stuff. That's the description. What would I do to change it? Well, let's take this one, for example. I have another hook here. This hook I've already worked on. You can see it's very shiny, and I've rounded all the edges, and I'm going to put another hook that is unfinished right next to it. Now, when I showed you guys this before, some of you said, well, I really don't care about appearance. I just care about does it work. And to be honest, that's all I care about. If you've seen my wardrobe, you know I couldn't care less about appearance either. I care about how well does it slide into the keyway. And if it's nice and smooth and all those rough edges have been removed, then any vibration you feel is going to be coming from the pins. If you leave all these rough edges on here, these laser cut edges, it's almost like sticking a saw blade in the keyway, and it's really hard to differentiate between pins and all the dragging that you're feeling. So if you take a few moments and then round the edges of your pick, make it not mirror-like, but at least take all the machining and the production edges off of it, I think you'll be a lot happier with the results and the feedback that you get from your picks. Okay, so finish them first of all. Second thing is this giant hook, postal hook. I would probably cut that down to a medium hook, to about halfway, so that I can actually be useful. On the diamond, I have another diamond example here. This diamond that you're given is not quite finished. I would probably file it some more so it's a more defined diamond like you see on the top there. Kind of shape it like that. And that way you can use it for not only SPPing, or you can use it like a hook, but if you have a wider diamond, you can use it for picking wafer locks. You can actually put it in and pick the pins sideways using that little flag on it. And thirdly, if you have a well-defined diamond on it, you can use it as a rake, to rake, or even use it as a kinetic tool. So it's a quite useful tool, it just needs a little bit of shaping. These two I've already talked about. I would keep both of those in the kit. The W works great. I wouldn't do anything with any of the rest of these. This last one, I would do something with it. You notice it's quite a bit different than the W. It's not very well defined. This is how it should look like, and that one is not. Kind of a weird angle. I would definitely get a file to this and reshape it. It would be a little bit smaller, but it would be much more useful. If you use this, it's going to be pretty awkward to get into the keyway. Likewise, with this diamond on the end of it, I would reshape that diamond to, again, make it look more like a diamond is supposed to look. Nothing that about 30 minutes of working with a piece of sandpaper could not fix. I think it's probably, let me put this one back in there. It's well worth 28 bucks. It's a great beginner kit, very durable, and when I was beginning, I wish I'd had something that was this tough and would put up with all the abuse that I gave my picks. I could have saved a lot of money without not breaking all the cheap ones that I bought. So there you go. If you want to register to win this, make a comment. 24 hours from now, I will close the comments and randomly select someone to win this ever popular PXS-14 kit from SouthOrd. Thanks for your time. Stay safe, guys. Stay legal.